On this episode of Locked On Angels, while a former Angel went 50-50 this last week, our current Angels had a victory on Sunday to avoid a 100-loss season. Yay! We're going to talk about what happened this weekend, plus Zach Neto's record-setting year. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, and here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Booking.com. The right stay, can make you a fan of any city, including your baseball rival city. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today.
Thank you for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, Mike, it's the last week of our third season here at Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball Monday through Friday, every single weekday. However, we're going to be here 5 days a week through the offseason. Eventually, we'll go down to 3 days a week, but that's not till toward the end of the year. So we're good. We got lots of things to get into today, especially because it was a 4-game set against the Astros in Houston. The Angels were only able to walk away with a win in one of those games. Of course, we'll talk about that Sunday game later on. But Mike, we have to start at the beginning of the series with the Thursday game. It was a loss 3-1.
Yeah. Jose Suarez started this game.
Yes, he did.
He went 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, no earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 Ks. The only run came on a Wagaman error. John, since coming back from AAA, Jose Suarez has pitched 12 innings. He's given up 8 hits. He's K'd 14 and only surrendered 1 unearned run. So because you're a huge fan of Jose Suarez.
Huge fan. Just as much as I love the Mariners, I love Jose Suarez even more.
The biggest fan is John Frisch. Make sure that everybody writes that down. Just take this clip. John Frisch is the biggest fan of Jose Suarez. John, what do they do with this inconsistent guy? What do they do with this guy?
Sorry, it's just this. It's so funny that he comes back and does this. 12 innings, 1 unearned run. And look, this was kind of the narrative all weekend long. None of these guys have a right to claim a stake in the starting rotation. And I don't care what happens with Jose Suarez, Reid Detmers, and of course, Patrick Sandoval won't be there until at least the end of next season.
Yeah.
But none of these guys, Griffin, Canning, they don't have their name in ink in the starting rotation, Mike. And certainly Jose Suarez isn't going to be that guy either. Certainly, cooler heads will prevail, and reasonable people in the front office will recognize, and reasonable coaches and management will recognize that Jose Suarez should not be in this rotation next. Oh, wait a minute. Ron Washington said that he saw a different Suarez since he came back.
I think you're talking about the same organization that thought that if they DFA'd him earlier this season, that other teams would pick him up? What?
I forgot we were talking about the Halos there for a minute, Mike. My bad. Yeah, that's the thing is nobody should have a spot penciled into this rotation.
Right.
But the way the Angels operate, they'll surprise you, Michael. And look, I totally understand. Jose Soriano, of course, you want him in your rotation. Tyler Anderson's got 1 more year. I say move him over the offseason because what team out there would want to start with him at the beginning of the season? There's probably a lot of teams that would take his affordable contract, make him be their 3 or 4 or 5 in their rotation, and use him to the best of their ability to get somewhere. But again, to go back to the old Angels ways, you and I just got through talking about, hey, are they showing some restraint? Are they showing some positive decision making that they haven't shown before? But I swear, Mike, if Jose Suarez is a factor coming into spring training, oh, he could pitch his way into a rotation, I will blow a gasket. That's how I'm going to put it for you.
Yeah. You brought up Tyler Anderson. If they do trade him this offseason, somebody's going to get a great first half from Tyler Anderson because the second half hasn't been great.
If you're a playoff team, then that's fantastic.
Right.
Because then you can make the decisions you need to make at the second half. I mean, look at the Mets. They have done so well in terms of having some pitching depth. They've got Sean Manaea, who turned his season around, but then they've gotten a hit and miss guy in Jose Quintana, and here they are still fighting for a spot at the end of the season. And so for me to see Tyler Anderson on another team and turn out a good first half for them, that is what a playoff team should do. You know what you're going to get, and you know what you're going to get out of him. You know that you're going to get some mileage out of him before you have to make moves that playoff teams make at the deadline.
The Angels have always been a team where you kind of knew like what pieces go where, but then the last few years, it felt like we were just holding that like Play-Doh or putty, that growing putty that you would set down and it kind of just grow and right. And it'd hang off your dresser when we were kids, right? You're holding it in your hands and you're just watching things kind of fall through the openings of your fingers. And that's kind of how this roster has felt for a long time. And then you have somebody like Zach Neto, and you have O'Hoppe, and you have a Shonawell, and you start to go, okay, maybe there's some pieces that we actually can hold in our hand. Mm-hmm. Man, Jose Suarez is in that previous category. He's in the first category. You just don't know what you're getting with this guy. Yeah. And he's not somebody that you can pinpoint and say, oh, you know what? He's really good in the bullpen as a long reliever because his stats say this. But then you see an opposite of those stats in the most recent part of his career, instead of looking back at 21 and 22. And then you go, well, maybe he could be a starter because he had a great second half in this season, but then there's what he did this year. And then the thing that really frustrates me with Jose is the narrative out there that he put out there of like, I don't really know what I did wrong. I don't know really. I was throwing my fastball. And it just seems like that seems to be the conversation that a lot of these pitchers fall into. They just don't know. They just don't know what they're doing. They're just not sure what they're going about. They're not sure about the approach. They're not sure about that. And then every once in a while, they pop a 5-inning game like this, and everybody gets excited about it. And the Angels talk about how great it is. And the announcers are really excited about it. But this is fool's gold.
Yeah.
That's really what this is, right?
I'm unmoved by any performances from the typical guys like Griffin Canning, even Reid Detmers, we'll talk about him, and of course Jose Suarez, because Mike, they are miles away from the Kohanowitzes and the Algaderis who know what they need to work on and who know what they did wrong in a start. They recognize it. Kohanowitz is the perfect example of that. He comes up for those 2 games, gets shelled, not great starts, gets sent back down, comes back up, knew what he needed to do, communicated that he knew what he needed to do. And it's just the idea of strategic pitching. You often hear the phrase, well, now he's just a thrower. He's not a pitcher.
Yeah.
And that's because, a guy can throw 95, a guy can do this, a guy can do that, but why is he doing it? There's no why behind some of what these starting pitchers do. And so the inconsistency that you're talking about comes back to guys like Canning and Reid and Suarez, because they don't understand why they're out there. It feels like they don't understand what they need to do to get better. They don't understand how to be in charge of the inning. Like you mentioned the other day, it's always the offense of the other team who's in charge of the at bat. And never, it seems like, the starting pitchers are in charge of what's happening out there.
Now, the Angels bullpen actually was really good on this night until the 8th inning. And then Ryan Miller came in. He gave up 2 runs and the lead, and he walked 4 in his inning of work. And that really ruined the game for the Halos, right? And they didn't have much to work with in this game either, because the Angels only scored 1 run. It was Taylor Ward's home run, 25th home run. So yay, Taylor, 25 home runs. I mean, that's what it feels like right now, right? And it's been that way for a while. And I'm tired of celebrating stats. I want to celebrate a good team, but it just seems like we have just been given a team that at the end of the year, they'll pad some stats. We'll look at this. We'll see 4 guys with 20 home runs. We'll see Taylor Ward close to probably 30 home runs. And we'll go, wow, this is so fantastic. But it all came in kind of a meaningless, pointless, we're not really watching sort of time in the season, right?
You made a good point the other day about, if the circumstances were different and the Angels were in contention, we would be celebrating Taylor Ward's 25th home run.
Yeah.
And perhaps Mike Trout, if he could stay on the field, we'd be celebrating 45 home runs, right?
Right.
And this team looks entirely different if these guys are doing these things at the end of the season as you're playing and pushing for a playoff spot. And they just haven't been in that position in so long that now, you're right. It feels like this kind of stuff is, okay, yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I have a conversation that I'm bringing to the table on tomorrow's show that kind of has to do with, Taylor Ward and his 25 home runs and what some of these young guys have been able to do this season. I think it's going to shed some light on what this team can look like in 2025. I know that we've been talking about 2025 for a while because the team has been out of it this year, but it is the last week of the season. There are definitely lots of conversations to be had, directions this team can go. And I think it's important that we get into those discussions. And honestly, sometimes when we go through seasons like this, the offseason is the most fun for me and being on the show, because we have such great conversations with our everydayers and we get into some insights and things like that. And I love predicting, like, hey, what should the Angels do when we do our GM show, or we get the player grades from our listeners and viewers. So much fun. So I'm looking forward to the conversations we get to have as the Angels finish out this season. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are playing the White Sox on Tuesday, 4:40 Pacific time. They're off today, but they'll be playing tomorrow at 4:40 Pacific. Are they going to be the ones to help the White Sox set the worst loss record in history? I don't know, guys. Let's not make any promises here.
Right.
with these Halos. You
Right.
can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on Sirius XM with the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, Zach Neto did something that hasn't been done in history of the franchise. And so we're going to talk about what he was able to accomplish coming right up.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com. Yeah, you can explore U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find the perfect stay, even if it's in your baseball rival city during the postseason. Maybe it's time to taste test your baseball's competition at the stadium, the cuisine that they deliver. And you can with Booking.com. You can find the right stadium, the right stay just for you. Booking.com has a wide variety of choices across the United States, and you can go incognito with all of your friends, your family, into your baseball rival city. No matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. Booking.com, Booking.yeah.
And today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Friends and fans of the NFL, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, so don't drop the ball on this one, guys, like the 49ers did 6 times on Sunday. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live, play-by-play, and so much more on the exact same page where you place your bets. So you got your data and your bets next to each other. Let's go. That's the way it should be. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's all you have to do. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. All you have to do is place your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com is where you can find it. FanDuel.com is America's #1 sportsbook.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, and this is Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. And John and I want to invite you to the O'Hoppe All-Star Bowl. Logan O'Hoppe is putting on the All-Star Bowl, and its goal is to raise money for Corey's Promise, a nonprofit organization that helps offset the financial burden of families that are dealing with childhood cancer. So you can come and hang with John and I and a lot of the Angel players and a lot of everydayers on Saturday, October 5th at Cow Bowl in Lakewood from 1 to 4. We're going to bowl together. We have some teams. We're going to bowl against each other. We're going to have a great time. Players are going to bowl with us as well. And you can get your tickets to join us by going to the link in the episode description. And when you do, there's a promo code that you can use, BROS, BROS, at checkout. and we're going to get you $50 off your ticket. We would love to hang out with you on October 5th. The O'Hoppe All-Star Bowl, going to be a great time for a great cause. Come and hang with us and get your tickets today.
Mike, if you were wondering if there was a repeat of Friday's game airing on Saturday night, I wouldn't be surprised. And if you thought that that was the case, well, we're going to talk about why that might have been the case, why it looked like a repeat, because the Angels had two terrible starts. Tyler Anderson on Friday and Reid Detmers on Saturday. Friday, the Angels lost 9-7. The Halos had no offense in game 1 on Thursday. And then when they have some offense, they have no pitching.
None.
And isn't that just the circle of life with this team sometimes? Tyler Anderson went 2 2/3, gave up 8 hits, 6 runs. 3 of those were earned runs, no walks, 4 strikeouts, and 2 home runs. He hurt his own cause with an overthrow in the 3rd inning. Should have been an easy play to second that Anderson was able to get, and he tossed it over second base,
way over.
And so it was kind of his own undoing. No reason to rush that play, no reason to rush the throw, and that's what happened in the moment. Why is it always the hardest throws in baseball are the like, here you go.
Yes.
This one here.
The simple.
Catch, Mike. And it's like when they used to have before the automatic walk with, you could just wave the 4 fingers to walk, automatically walk or intentionally walk the hitter. I don't remember who was on the mound, but I know Jeff Mathis was behind the plate, and all they had to do was throw 4 balls outside, and it just sailed over Mathis.
Yeah.
And this is back in the day. That's kind of what this felt like. It was like all you had to do was lollipop the ball. Ask Matt Theis how to lollipop Tyler Anderson. He can show you. But the story also here, Mike, was the homers and the hits, and Anderson couldn't recover from the mistake that he made. But Mike, putting that air aside, again, it's 6 runs, 3 earned.
Yeah.
But 8 hits.
Yep.
No walks. I got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
But 8 hits. It's the exact Tyler Anderson that we've been worried about rearing his ugly head all season long. And if you thought, hey, man, his value is the highest at the trade deadline, that's because it was.
Right.
And it was the highest it would ever have been, because this is how he's finishing out his season. And for a team that didn't want him to be in the second half or have a playoff stretch or whatnot, this is what they were worried about too, right?
Yeah. And he got hit a lot of contact. I mean, it's the Astros, so they're going to be swinging the bats. And this just seems to be his trend right now, a somewhat good start and then a couple of really bad starts. And that's what all everydayers were afraid of in the second half.
And this is not speculation of, oh man, it's just Tyler Anderson, it's going to happen. It wasn't speculation. It was all based on the underlying numbers, the metrics that are there for Tyler Anderson and have been there all season long. The fielding independent pitching is the number you want to look at. And that has everything to do with how hitters get on base based on what the pitcher can control. And when it comes to Tyler Anderson, he gives up hits, he gives up walks, and he gives up home runs. And that's how these guys are getting on base.
Yeah.
He's been fortunate to get out of jams, get the double play when he needs it, that sort of thing. And a credit to the defense behind him in those moments as well. But when you boil it down to what can the pitcher control, it was inevitably going to get out of control for Tyler Anderson based on the numbers.
Yeah. Offensively, Wagaman's kind of been the only guy that's really shown up the last few games as a new person on this team, right? Some of the veterans, some of the younger guys are playing well, but he led the way in this game, John. 3 hits, 2 RBIs. He had 2 runs scored, had a double in this game as well. 820 OPS after this game. And I want to say I'm impressed. I want to say I'm impressed. I just don't want that to be a statement of, and so he should be on the roster next year and he should be, because I don't want to even go in that direction, because I think all of these guys are given an opportunity. But I think you're right when it comes to the pitching staff. I think it also comes to some of the roles that are on this team. Everything is barely in pencil. And if we have anybody that's locked in, then we have to reconsider that, right?
Yeah, unless it's Neto at short and O'Hoppe behind the dish and
Sure.
Mike Trout if he can play and stay healthy. Those guys are certainly locked in. But with Wagaman, what I do think is good here, and I would say the same thing about Gustavo Campero as well, is now you know who you can go to when Anthony Rendon gets hurt, when somebody in the outfield gets hurt. Obviously, you would make the jump to Luis Rengifo at third before you went to Wagaman. But at least you can see that you have somebody here in Wagaman and Campero that you can go, hey, you know what? If we have injuries, we have some depth there. I know that the Angels burned through a ton of depth this season because they signed a ton of depth in the offseason, and it just hasn't either worked out or they haven't been needed, that sort of thing. And so it's good to know that you can go to those guys in that moment. Some other highlights: Matt Thaiss, 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs, finally broke that hitless streak that he was going through. And am I the only one who sees the A button swing, Mike? The same swing over and over and over again. And unless the ball is in his swing path,
right,
he's not swinging toward the ball. He's doing the same swing over and over again. Push B, push A. It's the same swing over and over. Kevin Pillar came back in this one off the IL, hit a home run in this game as well. On Saturday, Mike, like I said, a repeat performance. The Angels lost 10-4 in this one, right?
Yeah. John, bad pitching. And I've been a Reid Detmers guy since the beginning. And 2 innings, 9 hits, 7 earned. Come on. You're the guy that can't even get out in the 3rd inning.
Yeah.
And this guy is just so frustrating. Real quick, here's his stats, first 2 starts. Dodgers and Twins. 12 innings, 8 hits, 4 earned, 3 home runs, 4 walks, 18 Ks. Last 2 starts. White Sox and Astros. 7 1/3, 16 hits, 14 earned, 4 home runs, 6 walks, 9 Ks. This is who he is.
You think so?
I think this is who he is. I mean,
dramatic pause.
Yeah. I mean, I can't see him. He's got to improve. He's got to figure this out. And this is what he did in the minor leagues. This is what he did this season. This is what he did last season. He has a couple of really great games. This is who he is. And I don't think that there's a different narrative out there that we can talk about until he actually proves that he can do something different.
I want to know why the fastball was so bad. It was 91, 92 all night long in those first couple of innings. So I don't know if it's fatigue. I don't know if there's an injury there. But Mike, that's why he was getting beat up. He had no zip on that fastball whatsoever. And if you combine that with the fact that, the slider wasn't fooling anybody, usually that's his out pitch. And it's a great slider. Don't get me wrong. It's a great slider. But when you're throwing 91, 92, first of all, something's wrong. Yeah. Second of all, because he typically sits 94, 95, 96, touch 97. So I don't know where the velocity went.
I chuckle because this is, let me just go back and rewind every show that we've talked about Reid Detmers and every start that he's done. This is the conversation, right? Like there's always the fastball. Why is the velocity down? What happened there? Or the slider wasn't really, and then when he's good, oh man, the fastball was really good and he was throwing the slider at the right time. Something happens with this guy that they can't pinpoint. We haven't been able to pinpoint, and we can talk about all of the little ticks that are the reasons why. But maybe his middle name is inconsistent because this guy just can't find it. He's constantly on this roller coaster all season long, and even in the minor leagues all season long. This is just who he is and what he does.
He's got a twin brother who they switch places. one for the road, one for home. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's why we see inconsistency. The only positive was Logan O'Hoppe, who busted out of his terrible slump that he's been in since the beginning of August.
Yeah.
4 for 4 night, hits his 20th home run. He's the 4th catcher in Angels history to hit 20 home runs. 4th Angels player to hit 20 home runs this season. Does that move you, Mike? Does that mean anything in this terrible season? Is that a positive for you or a meh for you?
I think it's great that we have all of these hitters, these young hitters that are getting home runs, that Logan O'Hoppe is trying to find himself right now. I would rather have him do it in this season so that next season he's ready to go.
Yes.
But I think this is part of just being young and inexperienced and being a part of a team. Again, what the funny thing is that, we're going to look at this thing from 80 miles away in a couple of years, and we're going to go, man, they had this guy with 20 home runs, this guy with 20 home runs, that guy with 20 home runs, this guy, right? We're going to go, wow, what happened to that team? Same thing, Shohei and Albert and Trout, what happened to that team, right? And so that's just the narrative for this Angels team over the last 10 years. We can look far, far away at it and go, well, what happened? They look like they're really good. I do think it matters, though, because Logan O'Hoppe is figuring some things out, and he is going to be a pillar for this team moving forward.
Absolutely. And again, good conversation coming about what it means to have 4 players with those 20 home run seasons and what that means for the team moving forward. We'll talk about that, of course, but we'll get into Game 4 on Sunday coming right up.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Super easy to use. All you need to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can watch the winnings roll in. And right now, you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. So here's how it works. You have a player projection lineup that could look like this, especially during the football season. You could take Tyreek Hill with more than 90 receiving yards, or Dak Prescott with more than 263 passing yards, maybe Josh Allen for less than 240 yards, and CeeDee Lamb for more than 96 receiving yards, and then you're done. It's that simple. You're just picking more or less on what you think that they'll do. You can download the app today and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and you're going to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Just use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and you're going to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, Neto Nation, it's time for you to rise up because Zach Neto was the star.
Yes, thanks
on
for saving
Sunday.
the weekend. Good grief.
Yeah, no kidding. In the Angels' 9-8 win over the Astros, Zach Neto was a star in that game. 3 for 5, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. This came from Angels PR on Twitter. Angels shortstops with 6+ RBIs in a game. Zach Neto yesterday against Houston. Mikey also did it August 7th in Game 2 at the Yankees. They were in New York playing the Yankees. Freddie Patek, 7 RBIs, June 20th, 1980 in Boston. Jim Fregosi, of course, 6 RBIs, June 10th, 1964 against Cleveland. Neto also yesterday holds the Angels franchise record for most home runs by a shortstop in a season. He did it.
Yay.
We said he could do it, and he did it. And here's the thing. They kept saying, Fregosi had 22 in a season, 1970, I believe.
Yeah.
And 2 of those came as a first baseman. He was playing first base when he hit those 2 home runs. So my thing was, okay, yeah, so Zach Neto has the most as a shortstop. I just want him to get the most and be the Angels shortstop who has the most in franchise history. So he did that on Sunday. That was incredible to see. Not only that, he just had an incredible game at the plate as well. Yeah,
you can't argue with being in the same category with Freddie Patek and Jim Fregosi. Both of those guys are fantastic, especially Fregosi. John,
sometimes I read things and I read them like Ron Burgundy, the way that they are on screen. Patek. I was just like, Freddie Patek? No.
I'm Ron Burgundy?
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
I think it was Angel's grandma, or maybe was it Mama Ruffin on Twitter that said, hey, Astro fans, this is our version of Alex Bregman.
It was Mama Ruffin, yes.
It was such a great tweet, and I loved that comparison, that this is going to be the guy that's going to annoy the snot out of you over the next 5 to 10 years. And I love that Zach Neto got this. I love that he's been a hustler. I really think that he is the future face of this franchise. And when I say future, 2025, right? I know Mike Trout is going to be back, but I think Zach Neto is the guy you want to build everything around. Put that guy's mug on the front of the stadium, put him on commercials, put him on flags down all of the roads around Anaheim Stadium. This guy is fantastic, and I think he is the one you want to build this franchise around.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I loved, and I actually tweeted this from Super Halo Bros. So a couple days ago, the Astros were in San Diego. Of course, Josh Hader, former Padre, was booed big time by the Padres fans. And he said, I love being the villain. I love living rent free. So I tweeted, hey, Padres fans, just so you know, Zach Neto knocked Josh Hader out of the game and served him a blown save. And I said, props to you, Padres fans. And so there was a lot of Padre accounts that retweeted us and a bunch of them that said like, hey, props to the Angels. And when they're not playing each other, we love the Angels too. So Mike, I think you're a pastor. It's our heavenly spiritual connection, Padres and Angels, right? I think that's where it comes down
to. Now this is going to be the most petty that I've ever been on this podcast.
Really?
Okay?
Now?
Well, you can determine that. Remember all the tweets and all the posts. 100 loss season incoming. It's not going to happen, friends. It's not going to happen.
Oh,
they got enough.
Petty away, Michael. Petty away, because I said, look, I don't care if it's 99, 98, 97. Yeah. I said, and you said, not going to be a 100 loss season.
Yeah.
There's no way that this team is going to be worse than some of the teams that they've had in the past. And even when they traded away their closer and one of their best relievers and lost all their good players and whatnot, even when that happened, still not a 100 loss team.
No.
And I feel like that's all I heard at the beginning of this season. So
that's not to point out any of our fantastic everydayers and those that watch or listen, but there are a few Angel voices out there, known and unknown, that had the 100 loss season incoming. Listen, I don't care. They're gonna have even if they get 99 losses, it wasn't 100. That's how petty I'm gonna be about this, John.
Petty away, my friend. Yeah, I will be so petty about that because it's true. Look, and if they end up owning the worst record in franchise history, then that's great because then it's on Artie Moreno. That's another blemish for him. I know that we talked about this on Friday. And if that would even matter to him. And Mike, I'll explain this more on tomorrow's show. But if you want to get to Artie Moreno, the path to getting to him is through his ego.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. I'll elaborate on that, of course. This is a game that went back and forth offensively. They really did the dance yesterday in Houston. Canning started, had a typical Canning start, 4 1/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 Ks, surrendered 2 home runs. But the Angels were able to get back into this with Zach Neto's go-ahead home run. And then Quijada tried to give it away. 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th. Fortunately, Guillermo Zuniga came in to get the final out and the save. So the Angels do avoid a 100 loss season. And Quijada, don't you you have another pitch, right?
Right. I was just gonna say, like, the guy, they're gonna hit you, bro. Because you're throwing the same pitch every single
30
time.
fastballs. 30 fastballs. Nothing else. What in the world?
I don't know what he's trying to work out. Maybe he's afraid of the elbow issue. Who knows? But bro, you're gonna have to figure that out before next season because you can't just throw heat every single time.
Yeah, and especially heat that is easy to read and see out of the hand and know what you're gonna do next. So yeah, fortunately, the Angels were able to hang on and not spoil the Zach Neto performance from Sunday. So, yeah, shout out to Zach Neto, Logan O'Hoppe having a breakout weekend, finally getting out of the slump. And we'll see what happens this week. They got the White Sox away and the Rangers at home. It's the last week of the season, friends. So, as we always like to say, hold on to your butts.
Thanks for making Locked On Petty your first listen of the day. And if you want to listen to a non-petty show, your second listen can be Locked On MLB with our friend Soli.
I don't know. He's pretty petty.
He's pretty petty too. That's why he's our good friend. He's got some great information for you. You should check out his show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, friends, if you want to give us a follow on social media, you can do so at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening to today's show, find today's show, get in the comment section on YouTube, hit that like button and the subscribe button. It helps us get in front of other Angels fans who might not know about the show. Mike, there was an art walk in Pasadena yesterday. My wife and I walked down the street and we met Gary, I believe. Was it Gary? Yeah, Gary and his wife. And they were selling merch there. And they were Angel fans from Orange County who came out for the art show. So I told them about Locked On Angels. So yeah, really excited about that. How what's tomorrow's show looking like for us on Tuesday, Mike?
Yeah, you teased it out a little bit, but we're going to talk about how the supporting cast is here. So who are the difference makers? We're going to identify some of the supporting cast and some of the difference makers and what the Angels need to do so that 2025 and potentially 2026 is better, so much better than this season. We'll talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll come back and join us again. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
Petty Manassian.
Petty Manassian. That's what I want to see.